Hi, Craig.
Hello.
Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Craig, perhaps a short introduction.
Yeah. So my name's Craig Parkinson. I work for a company called BAE Systems. Is that an appropriate point to give a bit of background to BAE? Yeah. So I'm not sure if you'll have all heard of BAE Systems, but it's a defence company. It's fairly large. It's split into, I'll get this wrong now, but a number of different areas, things like an air sector, land, maritime, submarines. I work in the air sector. The air sector is a kind of worldwide company that builds military aircraft, fast jets. It does a number of other things, and currently it's sort of increasing its footprint into lots of kind of exciting technologies that are not the traditional, man or lady in a box flying a fast jet. But historically, that's BAE Systems air sector bread and butter. I guess the platforms that we build are Hawk. I think we still build them. We certainly support them. We still support some Tornadoes. Typhoon is obviously a big one. The whole Eurofighter. The F-35 with Lockheed Martin, and it's in the early stages. And again, another sort of partnership of the next generation fighter, which is called Castle Tempest.
Good, thank you, Craig. Can you please describe the Bizagi journey in the last 10 years? You have been, You were one of the first Bizagi customers. I remember visiting you in Preston. And it took me 20 minutes to get in because they didn't have a security procedure for a Colombian. No Colombian had ever been there before, so they didn't know what to do with me. Please.
Yes, it can be a challenge. So obviously we do a lot of work for the UK Ministry of Defence, MOD. So there is secret, official, sensitive, government classified data, which we perhaps will talk about a little bit later because it presents certain challenges for our IT solutions, including Bizagi. So I guess probably about 10 or 11 years, I think the partnership started, yes. BAE Systems, probably like lots of big organisations, we're not an IT company. We make planes. So we probably, nothing exciting here, but we've probably underinvested in IT in certain areas for quite a long time. So we had an aging ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning system, and it had come to a point where it really couldn't be ignored anymore. I think there've been plenty of talks around, a new world, new set of processes, drives efficiencies and all that. But I think in any organisation that's very large, where you're changing, the backbone of how your business operates, there's always a nervousness around, okay, it might bring some efficiencies, but it also brings risk, right? It's a very, very big change. But it got to a point where the business case was put forward, and it was, okay, so we are going to change our ERP solution, and we're going to try and consolidate down from a number of sort of legacy ERP and satellite solutions into one. At that point, there was, a piece of work that was done to support a business case that said, this is what we want. These are all the requirements, and if you map those into a high level set of processes that the ERP needs to deliver, this is what the business, this is what we want. And it became very clear very quickly that I don't think you could buy an off-the-shelf ERP solution that would meet the requirements, the process requirements of the business. So the decision that was made at the time was, well, how can we meet the requirements? We'll try and shape the requirements and the processes a little bit to move it more. Let's not just build what we had before. Let's try to do some business transformation, but fundamentally to meet in the middle and produce a system that implemented these business processes. We either bespoke the hell out of an ERP solution, or we find another answer. So the other answer that was determined from an architectural perspective was we would buy an ERP solution, and we went through a down select process and all that good stuff. And we would take an architectural perspective that said we will keep that ERP solution as vanilla as humanly possible. It will remain COTS. However, we have somehow then got to meet the challenge of how do we build a set of processes which are effectively bespoke. Certainly custom is a better word than bespoke, I think. How do we meet that? And how do we deliver that when we've said we're going to maintain a vanilla COTS solution? So the approach that we took was that we said, okay, feels like a BPMS engine solution could do that for us if we could select the right one and find a way to integrate that with a COTS new ERP solution. So our ERP solution would logically be let's say two systems working very tightly coupled together, that architecturally loosely coupled, all that good stuff. So that we could keep it. Interesting a point you made before, Gustavo. I mean that we did build our ERP COTS, and it is our system of record. So we went through a process of down select RFP, as you would imagine, to choose a BPMS engine. Bizagi came out on top of that scoring, so we selected Bizagi, and I guess that's where it started 10 years ago. We then embarked on a big program of work. It's a big organisation. It is a big piece of work. It was a bumpy ride, I have to say. Not from a Bizagi perspective, from a whole just replacing an ERP for an organisation our size, not straightforward. So the program took a little bit longer than we expected, but we got there in the end. We had a bit of a bumpy landing, I have to say. Most of that, in my opinion, was around the business transformation bit didn't work very well. I think that we, all the typical things that you read about ERP. So, our data was apparently cleansed, but it wasn't really. So those kind of things. But we ended up with a slightly bumpy landing, probably to be expected. And then we went into a slight recovery mode, and we're in a pretty good place now. So today we have a vanilla ERP, and we have Bizagi providing the processes to implement the business requirements where they can't be met by COTS, and they seamlessly integrate together, and that in itself, as a logical entity, integrates into a wealth of legacy systems and sort of partner nations, Eurofighter in Germany, etc., all that stuff. The solution integrates out.
And how is the platform being used today? Like what kind of processes have you digitized? Are the critical processes, supporting processes?
Yeah, so the Bizagi element is critical because simply we do not have an ERP solution without Bizagi. So we split, BAE Systems talks in functions. I guess the big ones for us in terms of functions is being an organisation as part of BAE. So typically, procurement, finance, manufacturing, maintenance and supply are the big ones. So all those areas have a level of Bizagi processes. But to sort of indicate, I guess the easiest way of how critical Bizagi is for us, you cannot, by design, you cannot authorize a purchase order within our ERP solution. Our customer requirements around purchase order management are, fairly unusual, I would have to say. So they couldn't be met without making considerable mess of an ERP solution. So we chose the COTS philosophy, whereas a BPMS allows you to build, bespoke processes, bespoke custom steps. So, a purchase order would get created within our ERP solution, but then effectively through integration, it's handed off to Bizagi. And then the purchase order management up to a point of approval and several steps after that would happen within Bizagi. And then at the point of that approval, logically, a record is written back into the ERP solution such that the ERP has got a complete purchase order record entity such that it can enable some of the other phases of it. So I think probably, the numbers are hard to really stand behind, I guess, because but I think about 65% of our procurement processes are implemented within Bizagi. The next biggest one was finance, and then behind that we had manufacturing. And neither of the two are of any use, being nice, standalone. Logically makes up our ERP solution.
Very interesting. After Martin's presentation, are you thinking about low code nowadays? Because you saw that presentation and I was like, okay, send this immediately to the development team. We need to install this capability everywhere. So what are your thoughts around low code?
I found the presentation really interesting, and I was a software engineer. That's where I started at university, so I found it very interesting. So we're not particularly low code in Bizagi. So we have got lots and lots and lots of lines of code within our Bizagi processes. We have a lot of that, I believe, is custom integrations. So we integrate. So we may have got a new shiny ERP solution, but the rest of the estate is still pretty aging. Doesn't necessarily conform to sort of modern integration standards. So we have a lot of code that we've had to write to do custom integrations, and that's all hand cranked. So that has resulted in a fairly large code base, I guess. I guess the bit I found so interesting about is, and I don't know, does. So I mean, code generation is a great thing, but for an old man like me, I'm like, oh, it's a bit scary. But does that fly in the face of low code, or does it not? I don't know really. I'm not sure, because the easier you make it, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I don't know. But the easier it becomes to generate code, and the wider the user base that can generate code, because the nature of generating becomes easier, potentially, the more code that you may end up with. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting point of view. What about the future? What about the next steps? The cloud, AI, how do you see this being adopted by BAE Systems? Being such a highly secure environment, you have all these regulations. If you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, certainly. So we just to step back to feed the next step. We've just gone through a Bizagi upgrade. That's on premise. So it was a little while ago, but we did a significant upgrade with Bizagi. We do make extensive use of Bizagi professional services. In the project space, that was heavy, and then post go live we needed help. Then it trimmed down, and then we it came up again when we wanted to do the upgrade. So we took a very cautious approach to that, because we'd had a bumpy landing when we went live. So we've just completed that. A while back, and it went really well, really, really, really well. I guess the next step for us is just being open and transparent. So we have signed a new multi-year agreement with Bizagi, a cloud agreement. So it is our intent to go to cloud. That presents us with some challenges. So we are a degree of the data that is hosted within our logical ERP solution, both Bizagi and our ERP, it is effectively not ours. Where it gets difficult is some of it's NATO classified data, and then that's potentially subject to all kinds of restrictions imposed by NATO as to where you can put that data. Some of it is UK MOD official sensitive accredited data, which again becomes potentially subject to where you can put it. An example would be, it's our understanding you cannot put NATO restricted data into a public cloud today. NATO are working to solve that problem. At the moment, we don't think we have any NATO restricted data within our solution. We've got NATO unclassified, but we don't think we've NATO restricted. But we do have official sensitive. So the long and short of it is it presents a challenge. So BAE Systems is very much cloud. We've moved a number of our services into cloud. They've all had to follow a process that effectively examines the data and a number of other security things, goes through a formal process we've got called off networks to determine that whether or not we can be compliant with UK MOD and our commercial contracts and establish that solution in the cloud. And that's a process that we're going through at the moment to look at the Bizagi side of our ERP solution. I think that the two bits that are the challenge are, one is the data. So, can we or can we not, and can we? It's never a black and white. It's never a yes or a no. It's quite often okay, that's not what we want. Tell us how you're going to protect that if we allow you to put it there. How can you monitor access? How can you prove an audit trail of who's accessed it and from where? Things of that nature. The other challenge for would be, which again will have to be solved. There's no question, because it inhibits any other initiative we've got to go for cloud for anything else, is To go to a public cloud, that will not be, let's call it an OS accredited cloud. There's not very many vendors that will provide that. That cloud, in the nature of our Bizagi solution, will have to integrate back into our ERP solution, which sits on-prem. So the integration mechanism, which technically is dead easy, right? But from a security perspective, to make the security people happy, we are asking for what amounts to, in their eyes, an untrusted network, reaching back into a formerly UK MOD accredited network, which is our corporate network. Now, there's ways to do it. We haven't got a blueprint that's been signed off yet, but it undoubtedly will end up being a cloud talking to a BAE Systems controlled landing zone, let's call it, probably some sort of DMZ, which is under our control but isn't restricted, but you can then apply a set of controls that allow you a second jump in. So all that stuff is stuff that we are working, but it does present a challenge.
Good. I want to make sure we leave enough time for questions from the audience. I think that's the most important part. There are so many challenges when you deal with an organization with so many security requirements like yours. We had another event, when was it, the end of last year in New York. And one of the CIOs said, okay, I understand why you moved to the cloud to accelerate innovation. And I think ADA is a perfect example of that. What we said before, a year ago, nobody was talking about ChatGPT, released in March, production ready 5 months later. What I found interesting from an interesting comment from that CIO was, no, it's not only about Bizagi. Every vendor in the cloud will be innovating at a very different speed. So if I don't have many or all of the vendors in the cloud, I'm just sacrificing the innovation from the whole ecosystem of IT companies that I have. So while tough, I thought it was a very deep comment from one of our customers. I think I'd like the audience to ask some questions for Craig.
Yes.
In the manufacturing and finance areas, what are some of the processes you've automated?
Oh gosh, you're going to get me now. So manufacturing and procurement, did you say, sorry?
No, I said, I know you said procurement was a big area.
Yeah, it is,
65%. But then the other areas were finance and I think you said manufacturing.
Yeah. So we're stretching into the business process now, not my area of expertise. So the finance bit, we did an awful lot of work. We did quite a lot of automation that didn't exist in our old solution. So we can argue some of these processes are procurement, some of them are finance, but the system will automatically generate purchase orders and electronically send them out today, which we couldn't do before. So we have the ability to do that for all purchase orders. It's just certain suppliers don't take it. So there was a level of automation built around that. We're in the process of implementing automation around electronic invoicing. So the return coming back in, all done electronically through Bizagi and then into our ERP solution. In the manufacturing space, a lot of the work was done around. It's not really manufacturing, but some of the stock management and the warehousing type stuff. And equally, it's a full ERP. It runs a planning engine once a week, and the planning engine simplistically sort of says, so this is your demand, come from wherever, this is what you need, this is what you've got in stock and on hand, and this is what you've got ordered, and here are delivery dates of what you've got ordered. And it would spit out a set of recommendations, if you like, that a planner, which is a manufacturing role, would sit and sort of, in theory, have to go through each one of those and then identify, okay, so he thinks I should buy 2 of these, or I should perhaps move 2 that are, we call it pegged from one place to another place. There's quite a lot of Bizagi process wrapped around the output from the ERP planning engine to make it more efficient and make it easier for those planners to see the wood for the trees, because otherwise they can get confronted with a huge volume of output, which they can't see the important ones to action. There's simply too much volume. I hope that helps. I think the last comment I would make is, around the cloud stuff, it's important to, it's generally important to BAE Systems, but it's important to us because, we're not an IT organisation, so we're not specialists in hosting stuff and infrastructure, but we're equally kind of historically quite poor at sticking with a solution for what that solution was designed for. We tend to try and bend them. So for me, cost aside, because everything has to add up, from a finance perspective, doesn't it, or you don't do it. But the governance that comes with buying a service, so that a vendor provides you with a service, whatever that service may well be, you can't really bend it because the vendor won't let you bend it. And then, kind of on top of that is the evergreen for us. So as I say, we did a Bizagi upgrade. It went remarkably well. It took us a long time, and that was on us because we went really cautious because we didn't want a bumpy landing after, the go live of the ERP. But so we took our time to do it, and it went really, really well. But the truth is, if we had to do that every couple of years, we would be perpetually upgrading, and there would be no agility, there would be no new features because we would spend our whole time in change fees just changing stuff. So, yeah.
Good. Craig, thank you very much for being here with us and for the long-lasting partnership.
And it's probably appropriate. Can I just thanks to Jürgen and Vicky, right? Because we are a hard customer, right? So
you're not.
Getting to a new deal was a significant milestone for us, and we're very happy with that. And it was nowhere near as hard work as I expected it to be. So thank you very much.
Thank you.